the Niners Super Bowl dreams derailed by the Eagles. More on the Niners in just a minute. But first things first, welcome to Good Morning Football. We are live in New York City on a Monday, June 26th. I'm Sarah Walsh in for my good friend Jamie Erdahl, alongside Tom Pelissero, Mike Garafolo, and Super Bowl champion Sean O'Hara.
How we doing?
Great.
Awesome.
How's you doing?
Everybody's fired up. This is exciting. This is a fun week. We got so much football action to talk about right now. Everybody's practicing. Everybody's on the field, right? We got all kinds of content, right, Mike?
Show don't stop for nothing,
No,
Sean.
listen, my head always starts this time of year to start to calculating how far out we are from training camps here. And in less than 1 month, every team will have reported to training camp here. That's the last week of July. We're currently in the last week of June. Once you get past the 4th of July, I think that's where everybody starts to turn their attention to, okay, we're getting closer and closer here. But it's a fun time. You had a couple of big-name free agents still sitting out there. You got some other unresolved situations.
Tom, when you use the word calculating, I'm expecting a number. Like, you said calculating and then less than a month. Like, how many days? What are we talking about?
I mean, it's June 26th right now.
Yeah, give me a number.
July 25th. A lot of teams are reporting.
No, I want a number.
That would
not
be
two,
29
that's 2
days. Sean.
29. Here we go. That's calculating.
3 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
I had to think about
right.
it. Yeah, 29 days. That's how far we are. And I believe we're 72 days from kickoff.
Well, now I'm excited.
Now we're
There we
getting
go.
mad.
It is
right
around
That's what I'm here to do.
By the way, when you were playing and you hear less than a month to go, back in the day, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Dread?
Life's over.
Yeah.
Here we go. We're going to training camp. Your body's about to go through hell. It started getting twitchy a little bit, yeah. But once you get through training camp,
I learned that.
Can't wait for the season to start. But now it's not even training camp.
But when you're on the other side of things, you're like, let's get this thing going.
Here we go. Let's go. What kind of flights are we looking at, right, Tom? What kind of flights are going to get delayed? What kind of travel shenanigans are we going with? And what kind of new polls are we going to get? NFL Network.
All hinges on Tom Pelissero.
Polls,
and with that, it's time now for the Lead Lock. George Kittle, one of the many offensive weapons the Niners have on hand to help whoever ends up starting at quarterback in San Francisco. You got Christian McCaffrey, you got Deebo Samuel, you got Brandon Ayuk, just to mention a few. Kittle seems fine with sharing them, telling the 49ers website, it's really fun to be on a team that does have a problem of too many mouths to feed because Coach Shanahan does such a great job of scheming everybody into getting certain plays, and it's just really fun to be a part of an offense that has so much talent on it. Kittle sounding pretty upbeat for a guy who has no idea for certain who his starting quarterback is going to be week 1. Brock Purdy continuing his rehab, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold splitting first-team reps. So despite the uncertainty at quarterback, do the Niners deserve to be called elite in the NFC? Tom.
Let's start off by talking about Brock Purdy, who suffered the injury that you saw right there in the video in the playoff game. Significant injury. He got the surgery, an internal brace to repair the UCL. Started throwing about a month ago. I'm told today he's actually flying down to Jacksonville, Florida, where he's going to be throwing for the next couple of weeks with Will Hewlett, who's a quarterback coach, as well as Tom Gormley, who's an orthopedic specialist. Same guys who ran Anthony Richardson's pre-draft process this year. The fact that he's actively doing this, continuing to ramp up his throwing, shows what the 49ers have been saying, which is that he's making really good progress, and they fully expect that Brock Purdy is going to be back for the start of the 2023 season. And lest we forget how good Brock Purdy was. Yes, every team in the NFL passed over him many times. He's the last pick in last year's draft, but his first 7 starts, all wins, including 2 playoff games. He threw 16 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions last year. But for that injury, we might be talking about a Super Bowl bound Brock Purdy. A remarkable season. You still have Trey Lance, a highly drafted player. Still have Sam Darnold, another former number 3 overall pick. But Kyle Shanahan said earlier this offseason, there's one guy we've seen who has done it, and that was Brock Purdy. Last year, if he continues to progress, there's every reason to expect that he comes in atop that depth chart once he's totally cut loose.
Yeah, the plan for Purdy, not only from a rehab standpoint, but also long-term, how to make him a better thrower. That's the idea behind the next couple of weeks here as he works on his throwing mechanics. But, yeah, great sign. Great sign. It's just, we've heard so many different timelines on Purdy this offseason. Sometimes from the 49ers themselves and the coaches and all that stuff. It seems like he's on track to be ready. If not at the start of the season, early in the season, whatever. The question, whether or not they deserve to be elite in the NFC, it's a very thin list of who is elite in the NFC. So is this an elite team, period, I think is the conversation that we're having. I believe so. I mean, consistently, we've seen this team be able to put some talent on the field, stay explosive on offense the way that they have despite losing Mike McDaniel last year. We thought he was a big part of what they did offensively. That was able to continue. And defensively, for me, I think that's the biggest thing. And not only from a talent standpoint, but from a coaching standpoint as well. You look at the last couple of defensive coordinators, Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans. We knew these guys were head coaches in waiting. Well, now they've got themselves a guy who was a head coach before and now brings that experience in Steve Wilks. I think this is going to be a really fantastic addition for the 49ers to keep them hit the ground running with this guy. He's not going to try to make wholesale changes on the defensive side of the ball. He's going to try to play to their strengths. We know what they're able to do up front, especially since they added Javon Hargrave from the Eagles as well to that defensive front. This is really a strong defense, and Wilks is going to play to their strength and bring that leadership that he showed with the Carolina Panthers that I thought should have landed him a head coaching job but didn't.
Yeah, that's going to be a big factor with the 49ers, that Steve Wilks transition. I think this defense alone, when you just look at how talented it is, they're going to be elite. And they're so physical up front, adding Javon Hargrave to that defense. And then we saw with the videos on there, Fred Warner, like what he does as a linebacker, how physical and how fast he is. This just not even just the defense, though. Like, when you look at the offense, I feel like the 49ers are one of the most physical teams in the league. Like, we have these elite categories, and everybody's going to go to, like, stats and, numbers and all stuff. When you watch the 49ers play football, like, you feel the impact. You hear the impact. They're on Fox. Fox every year wins the Emmys for the best sound in television. And when the Fox games are played, and it's the 49ers playing on Fox, you hear it. It's Kittle. It's Debo, McCaffrey. Defensively, offensively, they are a physical pound you team. And I almost feel like, you know what, with Kyle Shanahan at the helm, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. He's going to find a way to win games. He trotted out Nick Mullins, won football games with him. He won games with Trey Lance. He won games with Jimmy Garoppolo. And then when Purdy came off the bench, nobody expected anything from him, and yet he still found a way to win games. So I think Kyle Shanahan doesn't get enough credit for how many games he's won with all these different quarterbacks. If he could just have one stay healthy for an entire season, now we'd have a different conversation about the 49ers and where they're at. But this team is physical, and I think any team that plays them, I'd love to see their record after playing the 49ers the next week, because after that game, they're still beat up the next week because they're so physical on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I'll piggyback what you're saying on Kyle Shanahan, because I think Kyle Shanahan's elite given what they did last year. And the news cycle moves so fast, right? And we move on. And Tom, you were talking about Brock Purdy and can we get this guy healthy? A year ago, who was talking about Brock Purdy? Nobody. If you would have said, hey, the Niners are going to have to go to Brock Purdy this season, what do you think are their chances? People would have written him off and said, if they're going that far down on the depth chart, they've got big problems. They never missed a beat. They never had issues, no matter who they put in there. And so, yes, if they can get their guys healthy, but they've proven, Kyle Shanahan has proven, it doesn't matter because they have so many supporting pieces in place. They have such a good system in place. And then I want to talk again about their defense, because we talked about McCaffrey, Debo, all the weapons they have on offense, and you brought up Javon Hargrave. Take a look at what this defense did without Javon Hargrave a season ago. Look
a lot of ones there.
Doesn't get much better than that. And then, oh, by the way, you went out and signed Javon Hargrave and added him to this. So I don't think the defense got worse with him on the team. And then I know, Mike G, you brought up Steve Wilks, who I think did a really tremendous job down there in Carolina. And I was with him the first game that he took over, and there was just so much transition. There was the Matt Rule change, and then you shipped out Christian McCaffrey. I mean, they had quarterback changes left and right, and they were making a run at the end of the year. I mean, they almost had a chance to get into the postseason. I think he did an incredible job in Carolina. I love dealing with him. I think he did a tremendous job motivating that team and getting a team that really could have been in disarray there in Carolina to be playing for something, to be playing meaningful games at the end of the year. And it would have been really easy for him to be like, hey, this is just kind of a mess and I'm taking over here for a second. And they made it, I think, an incredible, maybe underrated run there in Carolina with Wilks. So now you send Wilks to a team that's got everything in place, and that defense is spectacular. So are they elite? Like, there's no question they're an elite team.
We say it every year, come late December, early January. This is not the team you want to see come into your building in the postseason, because you've got the style of game that travels. You talk about their physicality, their defense, the fact that they can run the football. So, yeah, I understand the question mark at the quarterback position, which is the most important position in the NFL on any roster at any given point. But the question about whether they should be elite, they check everything else, and we know that they're going to be competitive, and we know at some point Purdy's going to be healthy, and he's going to play the way that Kyle Shanahan wants him to play, and that's why they're anointing him the guy.
Maybe they carry 4 quarterbacks this year.
4?
Hey,
I don't know who they could have
through
another quarterback that we've never talked about that might be their quarterback next year. The
If
way
I'm
that
John
Kyle
Lynch, I'm
Shanahan
carrying 4.
They've got Nate Peterman.
Nate Peterman to the Super Bowl. Who knows?
Sam Darnold.